Today, I'm going to expose the biggest problem that erodes roofing businesses, ruins productivity, and traps owners in a cycle of frustration. I'm going to show you something that I developed called the Process Prism. And by the end of this video, you'll have a proven system to transform your business from a constant firefight into a well-oiled profit machine that gives you the freedom to actually lead your company instead of being buried in daily chaos. Because of what I do, I get to see the inner workings of roofing companies every day. And what I see that most owners don't is the silent killer eating their business from the inside out. Most contractors think that they're running a business, but they're actually running a complicated survival mechanism that's just one bad job away from total collapse. You see, most roofing companies are kind of like that work truck that's always in the shop. It's unreliable and breaks down unexpectedly. They spend more time fixing broken parts than driving jobs and making money. Every day is another patch job, another temporary fix, instead of building the well-oiled machine that the owner dreamt of when they started the company. See, when you have weak systems, it's constant firefighting. You burn daylight solving problems instead of growing your business. You're trapped in the grind, stuck in the middle of low-level tasks with your dream of business freedom getting more distant by the day. And it's kind of like living a recurring nightmare where the same damn problems keep coming back that bleed your profits and your sanity. This all results in your business becoming a stress generator and not a profit machine. You're working in the business, trapped in a job instead of leading your company. And growth comes to a grinding halt, as well as your entrepreneurial spirit getting crushed. The cold hard truth is that most roofing contractors just accept this chaos as part of the job. And this is why most roofers end up burned out, broke, and bankrupt. But here's the thing. These problems, they're not a life sentence. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to break free. I've developed a systematic approach called the Process Prism that will transform how you identify, attack, and solve the problems strangling your business. By the end of this video, you'll have a step-by-step framework to turn these challenges into opportunities for growth and freedom. You see, when you implement the Process Prism, everything changes. Problems transform from energy-sucking monsters into opportunities for systematic improvement. Your business starts running smoother, and you become the CEO you always wanted to be and not a constant troubleshooter and babysitter. Think of the Process Prism like the diagnostic computer in a high-performance work truck. Instead of guessing what's wrong and throwing parts at the problem, you now have a precise system to pinpoint exactly what's breaking down, understand the root cause, and then implement a permanent bulletproof solution. It's like having a mission control for your entire roofing operation. Every problem becomes a chance to upgrade your entire business system. Okay, so let's go through the prism here, and I'm going to illustrate a little bit. And what we start off with is becoming conscious of the problems, okay? The problem as it may occur. And when I say conscious, a lot of times we are unconscious of them happening. We get so used to them happening that we just start accepting these problems that are occurring as part of daily life. So the first step is to wake up and start seeing them. And the situation, an analogy or a story that I heard that kind of will explain this a little bit, it's called the prisoner with the unlocked door. So I want you to picture a prisoner who's been locked up for so long that they don't even try the door anymore. And here's the crazy part. The door, it's been unlocked the whole time, but they're so comfortable with their imprisonment that freedom doesn't even seem possible. See, most contractors are exactly the same with their business problem. The problem happens over and over, but they've been trapped so long they can't even see it anymore. So the problem and their imprisonment remain. So the first step is to become conscious of the problems. And to help you with this, we have a definition of what a problem is. You see, a problem is anything that wasn't planned for that happens that disrupts the objective or when expectations aren't met. For example, your day is all laid out. The materials in the crew are scheduled. The load arrives, then a couple hours later, the crew calls and says, hey, we don't have enough ridge cap. So now you drop what you're doing and go get them the ridge cap. Or it's the middle of the season. You're counting on a big sales month to help dig you out of the hole that you created last winter. Then you come to find out that your salesperson and your main crew both book vacations at the same time, and you're likely going to lose 25% of your production for the month. See, these are just a couple of the dozens of problems that occur, the submarine productivity, and get blindly accepted as how things go. But you see, successful companies, they don't just accept these issues. They attack them like weeds in a garden that are hell-bent on spoiling their crop. So when a problem does occur, like the ridge cap being ordered incorrectly, what's our first thought? Is it to get angry at the person who processed the order? Or maybe the forgetful salesperson? See, we call this the people. See, I can remember the day that this entire process was born. I was standing in my office on a day when a series of problems occurred like in rapid succession. And I stood back and I was ready to pull my hair out, and I asked myself, Did everybody wake up today and decide it was screw Aaron over day today? I was angry, frustrated, and a few other colorful words you can probably figure out. But it was right at that moment that I realized that this approach was alienating me from my team. See, when it came down to it, my frustration, it didn't help anything. It drove them away. And I started thinking about it, and they want to do a good job. They wanted to make me happy. My frustration, it was just an emotional response to the situation. If you deal with us at all at RoofCoach, you're going to hear a saying that we say all the time to all the people that we help and work with. And that's this: you cannot think and feel your way to success. When it comes to business, you need to develop your judgment based on objective data whenever possible. So instead of getting angry with people when problems occur, I vowed to follow this process first. And this is why now addressing the people is the last step in the Prism. Instead of going to the people and chewing them out when a problem occurs, the first thing that we want to do before assuming that our people are incompetent or intentionally causing problems is to ask ourselves this: was there a system in place that should have prevented this problem? Many times there are systems in place of some sort, but before we just say yes, there's a system, I want you to take the next step and then ask, is it any good? Sometimes we may have a system, but because it's either too complicated or not strong enough, it fails regularly. Sometimes we have systems that work fine when it's slow, but they fail when we ramp up activity. So if you don't have a system or your system needs to be improved, attack it like a weed that's hell-bent on poisoning your business. Create a system that functions more dependably and can be operated by your team. Let's imagine that we encountered a problem. We didn't jump to conclusions and start blaming our team. We did a systems check. We have a system and it's solid. The next thing we need to do is evaluate our management of the system. And here's the hard truth: systems die without consistent management. So after a system fails, we need to find out why. Now here are the steps. First, we need to ask, was the system communicated? Did we explain it to our team? Next, did we get buy-in? Did they commit to doing the system? If the answer is no to these questions, then we know what we need to do. We need to communicate the system to them and we need to get buy-in. Tell me if you can relate to this. Let's say that there's some problem that happens. You pull your team together, you lay out what happened and the system that you want to put in place to prevent it from happening again. You can tell that your team is willing to implement this system and you leave the meeting feeling pretty proud and optimistic. Then a couple weeks go by and a problem occurs because the system wasn't followed. You get furious and think to yourself, we just talked about this, and you want to go chew out your team. Don't do it. You haven't completed your system analysis yet. Instead, ask the next question. After getting buy-in, did you set a timetable that we would implement the system? Next, did you determine if there was training or resources needed to implement the system? Next, did you set standards for what success looks like or the results of what the system should produce? Let's say you have a materials order checklist that should have been completed, i.e. the system, before the order was placed that was short with the ridge cap. What's the standard for the checklist getting completed? Is it every order? Some of the orders? See, this is where the wheels kind of start wobbling in our management process a lot of times. Here's the next question. Were those standards measured? For example, if that checklist is supposed to be completed every time, is there a process for ensuring not only was that done, but was it completed correctly? Lastly, was the system supported? You see, when we have standards and we measure them, we learn if the system needs to be improved or if people might need some additional training. When we don't do these things, systems are merely just good ideas that are more like wishes than components of a well-oiled machine. Only after you've determined if there's a system and if it's any good, then you've gone over here and gone through all the management checklist, have you earned really the right to go up here and talk to the people about what happened. But now, instead of going at them all emotionally charged and chewing them out, you can have a controlled and probably productive discussion. And this is what that sounds like. You can go to them and say, look, you knew what you were supposed to do, you committed to doing it, and you were trained on how to do it. We gave you everything that you needed to be able to do it. Could you share with me why you didn't do it? Imagine how much more productive conversations like that can go. If you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing correctly, from generating the system and the management of that system, the most common answer you're going to hear is that they're trying, they need some additional help in implementing the processes and maybe modifying some old habits. The good news is that if you're on top of your game as a manager, you're going to build a solid team member who willingly produces the results that you desire, and eventually doing all that with little to no supervision. I truly hope that you implement what you've learned here today so you can stop spending all your time in a cycle that keeps you imprisoned and start designing a solution-based business that gives you the freedom to lead. If you need help with this or any other issue in your roofing business, Click the link in the description and schedule a strategy session with our team. And if you liked what we shared today, let us know by liking, subscribing, and commenting. It really means a lot to us.